Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. I am now back from my lovely little trip to the big city, Toronto, and again, I had a really great time. It was a lot of fun. I even met up with Chill Goblin, which was cool. But one of the things that I did was I went to the Royal Ontario Museum, and again, super fun. And I went there for a few reasons, but one of the exhibits that's right at the start, right next to the boutique, is a little exhibit about the pandemic and masks. And it was a really poignant exhibit showing a lot of different masks that people had made. So it was showing off people's creativity and about making statements. But there was one mask that was missing. It was number 24. And when you look on the side of, oh, what's with number 24? It was deliberately left empty as a reminder of all those that we have lost during this pandemic. And for whatever reason, that just gave me pause and made me stop and think for a second and realize, yeah, in our hurry to get back to normal, which I understand we all want, but in our hurry to do so, let's not forget that over 10,000 Canadians, well over 10,000 Canadians, have died over the course of this pandemic. The number is even higher in places like the United States. I think like over a million, if not millions, have passed away from this globally since this began. And the masks were so creative, and some of the stories behind them of just finding strength and resolve in adversity and overcoming tough challenges and supply issues and generosity with fellow community members and generously giving these to be displayed in a museum. And they were so creative, and in so many ways it just reminded me of all the best parts of humanity, which makes our stunning failure to adequately deal with this pandemic all the more troubling and depressing in that one singular moment. That one moment as I entered the museum and saw this, and saw, on the one hand, just it filled me with so much pride and joy seeing just the creativity and just diversity of humanity, but also recognizing, wow, yeah, we were able to do this, and yet our leaders in charge absolutely dropped the ball. They dropped the ball multiple times, and it is so infuriating to see that if we all kind of had the same mentality as what's shown and celebrated in this little exhibit at the ROM, we maybe could have done a lot better, and maybe way less Canadians would have died. I think for me, it shows this kind of serious disconnect between the political aspects of power and the economy, big business, stuff like that. There's a very clear disconnect between that and the people on the ground and what they're trying to do and what they're recognizing the problems are and trying to find solutions and be kind and generous with their neighbors and their communities. But we don't see the same from the top level, which is supposed to represent us, by the way. It was all just such a poignant moment that reminded me, rather viscerally, I might add, about everything that's happened up until this point. And that also, this isn't necessarily over. And yet there I was in a museum while traveling to a city that's not my home city, while there's still technically a pandemic going on. So yeah, there were many times throughout this trip where I was just thinking, am I doing the right thing? Sure, there's the whole, oh, you got to prove that you're double vax and wear masks when you're not eating. And like I wore a mask at all times inside the museum, for instance. But still, there was this annoying little voice in the back of my head wondering, is this right? Is this right? And I got that visceral reminder there on number 24 in the exhibit reminding me that I am enjoying a privilege that more than 10,000 of my fellow Canadians can no longer afford because they are dead and buried because of our actions and our inactions throughout this pandemic. And that just again reminded me of the divide between our so-called political leaders, our social betters, and those of us down here that were being celebrated in this exhibit of our creativity and our strength and actually helping people. Meanwhile, I look up at the top and I see weakness and terribleness. And if you can't tell, all that together is definitely what's bothering me today.